The Dasu that I do not know is much about her private life. And trust me, in our 6 months together, during each week, a couple of weeks, sessions a week, I would try to discover more of who is this person? You know, what are your hobbies? What do you like doing? She loves reading. She's fond of quoting passages in books. She's very literate. I'm not nearly that literate. She loves classical music. Her son, one of her sons plays rock music, talented. She loves to cook. She's, what would I call her? She's a, you know the word aesthete? She's embodies the poetry of a emotional, existential aesthetic. Her art is her presence. So meditation, she's religiously disciplined with a sitting meditation practice every day. During Hasaresh, she told me, there was hardly a day that went by that I didn't sit in the morning for an hour, in the afternoon for an hour. There was hardly anything I didn't do that was mindful because there's so much time on my hands, she said jokingly. She's witty, she's funny. She loves, another point that I find interesting about her that few people know is, you know, often in our conversations, I'd have the recorder and this and that. I was there underground. We could be deported at any moment. She was very aware that she could be imprisoned at any moment. And I'd say at least half of our time together, she'd be interested in asking me questions about my life. So I would say that one of her passions and pastimes is the human interaction. I think the Masu element within Myanmar is very much based upon, hi, nice to meet you, Priscilla. You're from Shin State. What do your parents do? How old are you? What was your interest in school? What was it like growing up? How do you feel about the Burman? How do you feel about the Koreans? Very engaging through questions, that kind of thing. I found that very fascinating, how open she was and curious she was about other people. But I conclude here, she's fiercely private. And she made the point, ask any question that you want and just allow me to answer in any way that I want. And she's very comfortable in saying, no, I don't want to answer that. And it was I've already told you, I do not want to talk about anything personal or private. And so that's Dasu. I met her husband, we were very open. I've been to their house in Oxford. I've met her children. I know her colleagues, but I never was one of, would you please tell me something about her? Apparently what you see in public is how she behaves privately and with friends. She's very, 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 very deeply committed to the people. I would say that her vocation is democracy and universal human rights and the furthering of the vision of freedom for the people of Myanmar. That's what she does. I don't think she has a personal life. I don't think she hangs out, writes poetry, although she's written a couple of poems I hear about. She hasn't even written a book. Letters from Burma back under house arrest. So I don't know if that answers your question, but meditation is hugely passionate. You know, another thing, she's very curious to talk about nonviolence, the philosophy. For example, I had smuggled in Martin Luther King's books, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist from Vietnam, on nonviolence, Nelson Mandela's book that had just come out, A Long Walk to Freedom, some works by the Dalai Lama, and even her father's speeches. She hadn't a copy of those at the time. And you could see that she, her deep regard for Václav Havel, and she wanted to immerse herself in the study of democracy. It was like, that is my vocation. She's a politician. I don't think she has anything else going on. It's not a sideline. She doesn't play golf, that kind of thing. So that's all I know about her on that level. I found her a really interesting person to be with. And I liked observing the way that she manifested with people when I would be watching or hanging or photographing. And another quality about her that I found interesting, for example, you may not know this, but back at this time in 95 and 96, probably a little similar to the coup right now, if you came out of your house, came out of your fear, and you stood in solidarity with the civilian, as she called it, the revolution of the spirit, struggle for freedom, you know better than me, you're from this, you have family there, you risk everything. You risk losing your bank, your home, your freedom, your mobility, they'll torture you, and that of your friends and your family. So that was very clear to me in 95 and 96, because it was against the law of gatherings of 5 or more. And every weekend, you may remember, which we have copies of every one of her talks, she stood in front of her gate and talked to the people, and every one of them risked torture and imprisonment. Just pause, think of that level of courage. It's way beyond to think of what the civil disobedience movement in Burma really means. It means my daughter, my uncle, my wife will be beheaded, tortured. At that time, it wasn't a mild version of that, but people were disappearing all the time. My point is, we cannot succeed in the struggle unless we understand the action, as she said, of metta, the action of karuna, compassion, the action of hope. She made those phrases up. So I was touched in the deepest way by the generosity, the goodwill of the people, taking in people who husband or wife or daughter were disappeared or went to prison and weren't heard of. Her cousin, Ue Win, for example, they had 10, 15 families living in their home, all of whom had lost everything to stand up for freedom. People don't know that about Burma. I don't know what it means to risk like that. But Da Su was an advocate like U Win Tin was, who gave away all of his copyrights and things. We're in this together. And so I'd never seen someone so willing to advocate, take people in, give things away. And Da Su was leading by example. She really, really took people in. She sent people to people whose homes they knowingly were tortured. And everyone in her near circle, take in families, take in more families. We're in this together. So these are kind of behind the scenes things. We think of these, she's very well dressed and she's in parliament and these incredible Burmese, furnishings and this incredible building in Naypyidaw. I found her personally radically down to earth. And so these are some of the qualities that I admire. If I were to imagine the Da Su that I know and the Da Su that I know through the friends and family that I've grown acquainted with over the decades, if she were to speak to the nurses, the doctors, the professors, the administrators, the whole people, I think a couple of things just spontaneously come to mind. I've thought this question through a few times. I think she would say, please restrain from the urge to use violence to fight back with with the military. I don't think she would even call them terrorists. She's so committed to non-vilification. I think she would emphasize restraint. There's no way forward. I can imagine her saying, if we use armed struggle, yes, it's convenient. Yes, there seems every reason to believe it's the way to act. But I never assumed that what I was doing, that I would even see democracy in my lifetime. I did it for the future of democracy, for the unborn, for the young, for Gen Z, for you. Please take up what we've set as a foundation. Be radically creative in your restraint to collude with the military, with the cronies. For example, I could hear her saying, make dictatorship unworkable through non-participation in anything to do with their economic, with their spiritual, with their material, toxic needs. Stop work. Band together. Give, 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 give. Unite through principles, not through arms. We are many, they are few. And slowly starve them of their money, of their legitimacy, and let the world see this bright, shining, revolutionary expression of nonviolence through restraint to participate, like in South Africa, with the white apartheid regime. So she would encourage them on a moral level, give them hope. That's what Masu is. She's a spokeswoman for principles, for inspiration, for the belief of struggling on, and make their economy equally unworkable. Like, just restrain from your need to put money and time into how they maintain money, privilege, and power. Pull out every financial consideration. Starve them of money. And then thirdly, I think she would really talk to the people of Gen Z, like the three of you, and the people all throughout the world. It is your moment to step up, to start to participate in revolutionary behaviors that truly inspire all the ethnic groups around the world who are from Burma to don't feel hopeless, to instigate boycotts, instigate economic boycotts, raise the standard of our people through your behavior, through your expressions. And I think she would really advocate through your music, through your art, through your social media. Do everything to take up the revolution as we are behind bars in Myanmar. But I think nonviolence, non-participation, make it unworkable for them. And then all around the world, the ethnic groups from Burma that are here in these other countries, don't lose heart. It's in your hands. We're in this together. Use your art, use your music, use your intelligence, and just take it higher. And that's always what inspired me with Burma. It was like, listen, I don't need to do that. It's not a family obligation. I'm just personally inspired by the principles and the etiquette and the intelligence of this nonviolent struggle called the Revolution of the Spirit. And I just wish my own country would adopt and associate with them. And of course, Hillary Clinton went there, President Obama went there. Where are you guys now? They don't understand that it's just the next dimension of this revolution of the spirit. They don't understand what she's done for the last 10 years. Where's her nonviolence? Well, she's not into that phase right now. She's into becoming a politician, unifying the military with the people, unifying the ethnic. Yes, it's a formidable task. They shot Ko Ni at broad daylight at the Rangoon International Airport, holding his grandchild. Do you think she's not has a gun to her head? What do we know? What do you know about what she's living with day to day? Do you know that she's probably had her children threatened? Listen, she is so principled though. Stand with her. Oh wow, what is she doing now? She's reconciling with one of the most corrupt, evil institutions that our world has seen in modern times. I mean, Ming Online has gone out of he's almost in the category of Satan. And what has she been doing for 10 years? Talking. And it's so hard for someone to understand, why don't you hate someone who's mean to people? There's no future with that. And so she's saying, let's learn to keep talking. Ming Online, let's talk. So the last point is, I've advocated this. What we want is what I've always wanted, is dialogue. Representatives around the world, Ming Online and people in the military, within the crony business, have a group of people come to Naypyidaw and have a mediator, just like at the Dayton Peace Accord after the genocide in Yugoslavia. Let's learn to talk about it. Where are you in the world to advocate dialogue? And don't stop until he agrees, they agree to mediation and dialogue. We've got to talk it through, otherwise, what are you going to do? Targeted assassination? So those are some of the points that I would think she would say to the Gen Z, Gen X around the world. I can't say that I know personal details of it. It's a very interesting dynamic. But I don't think one could understand the dynamic between Ming Online and Aung San Suu Kyi unless you include U Tan Shui, Ming Online, and Daw Suu. And I also have heard you cannot exclude the wives of Ming Online and Tan Shui. I hear there's a tremendous influence within the women of the Thamada at the top. You know, it's a cultural thing that only people who really studied that would really know. But I've heard about it. I've heard people tell me about it. And I think it's a very uneasy relationship for both of them, but primarily for Ming Online, because I think he's intimidated, obviously. He's not confident in himself as a man or his role. He's had to, a man when he beats his wife or beats a woman, it's not a sign of strength and intelligence, it's weakness and impotence. No, I don't like what you do. I'm going to trump charges up and put you away forever because I'm too stupid to talk to you. I think he's just dealing with radical insecurity. And he's got a big, all these badges. It's like, what are you, like a Boy Scout? And you know, it's embarrassing that you wear these things. What did I killed a democracy student. I killed a doctor. You know, my friends raped a young student in insane prison. Hey man, just down with that, man. It's like, he's a fake. Daw Suu doesn't deal well with fake people. Especially asshole fake people. I'd like, he'd kill me in a minute because I couldn't stand him. Daw Suu she doesn't even like suck it up. She just is willing to, like, I'm doing this for the people. You know, he's personalized. And I think his wife's probably very jealous of Daw Suu. Daw Suu is super smart, super attractive, super cool, internationally recognized, despite the fact Tan Shui orchestrated international media and influence to have her vilified the way we did. I mean, let's not overlook Tan Shui's masterful PhD in sci-fi war. How did this icon all of a sudden be hated by people? Really? Because she's colluding with Ming Online, who now wants her raped, killed, and put away forever? She's that stupid, right? No. So I just think he's a typical insecure guy who's just trying to assert his impotence and his unthinkably pathetic, shallow mind by being addicted, like a crack cocaine fetish with money. And these people in Naypyidaw, I don't know about you, I've been there a number of times. What in the hell? Like, I've got to like treat you like a god, like a king. And I think Tan Shui and Ming Online think that they're in the tradition of Burmese kings. I mean, obviously, Naypyidaw is the king. So, who are you, bitch? Really, what it amounts to. You studied at Oxford. You're having sex with that lowlife, a white English imperialist who took over our country. This is how he's, maybe in his dream time he's thinking this way. He and his wife talk this way. But you can be sure it's like back in the day calling a black person a nigger. I think that's the way he looks at her. She's, it's like Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel marrying a descendant of Hitler. I think he's got this posture that she's just a proxy of the white imperialist. And that's a very delicate psychology, very delicate. So it's a complex one, and I've written about it, there's books about it, I've talked about it. I invited, when I was in Burma last, I invited Ming Online to talk this way, straight up. I said, listen, I'm here, I'm a letter, Tan Shui, the same thing. I said, at least I gave them the attempt. You can say, I will not edit a word. You can say anything you want, it'll be printed the way you want it. But, so I don't know exactly, but his behavior says everything about both who he is and who he isn't. If he had any decency, the dude could win the Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow. All he has to do is just like say, I made a mistake. When's the last time you heard a guy admit, I made a mistake? It's almost impossible. Donald Trump, I made a mistake. Ming Online, I want to get on national TV and say, listen, I made a colossal error. I did this plant medicine called ayahuasca. I purged my evil spirit. And I want to tell you, the people, I apologize. I want to compensate you with all the money that I have from the oil pipeline from Yunnan to the Bay of Bengal. I want to give the money back that we've stolen from the farmers. All the cronies, it's over, guys. The people own the country, not the scum at the top. And I've been #1 scum. And I've seen the folly of my ways. Imagine if he even said something 1/10,000th of that to the people. The world would cry and weep. Release all the prisoners. Restore the universities. And give peace a chance in Myanmar. One man. And he's terrified of Daw Suu. Why? Because you're smart, you're good looking, you're clever. You don't even tell me you hate me. Well, I'm going to hurt you so badly until you really tell me you hate me. And she's chilled. She's chilled in this space. You don't hear her coming out saying what a scumbag it is that he's arrested me and tortured the people. Although she may not know. I don't know well enough. The most emotional I've ever saw her get, she told me, was she heard of someone who was tortured and was killed when she was under house arrest, and she banged her piano really hard. She's very, very disappointed. So anyway, I don't know if that helps at all, but you can't. Tan Shui, Ming Online, and probably 4 or 5 other of these men and their wives, they just see themselves as put the fire out over there, tea and brushes here. And, oh, hi, Premier Xi Jinping. Yeah, things are great here, We just squashed another 1,000 people in the uprising. Is he a sociopath? I think he's a sociopath without conscience. It's another thing that I think one needs to study. Is it possible to negotiate peacefully with a sociopath? Could there have been a measured agreement with Hitler? But the world would have been different if that assassin was successful and took him out. I mean, there's an counter-argument here, Alan. I hear what you're saying. But if I was Benjamin Netanyahu and working with the CIA, it's like, I think we should put a drone in Naypyidaw and take the dude out and restore peace just like that. And or a mini coup in Naypyidaw, and this might happen, is that you can be sure some of those men up there and women who are really senior with all the bucks and all the cronies and all the oil and all the rubies, Ming Online is expendable. Just lock his villa door and keep him well fed. Goodbye. And he's arrested, just like Tan Shui did to Ne Win. House arrest, put his kids in prison. Ming Online is seconds away from assassination or imprisonment, both. He's just crossed the line. Gen Z, Gen X ain't gonna tolerate. There's no future in Burma under this dude. Zero. He crossed the line. He has shown that there is no limit to the evil that I will do to hurt you, woman. Your mother, guess what? She's not too old to be raped. That's what he's doing. And so I think all these other people have so much vested interest in their kids going to great schools, keeping their wealth, keeping their money, traveling, that Ming Online will be expendable. We might see a mini coup up in Naypyidaw, and all of a sudden, Sue's released, when Myint's released, when Tane's released, insane prisoners are released, and some restoration of decency enough for the people to feel like, well, we got rid of pig number one, but we're not going to stop now with that little mini coup. I don't know. You guys are powerful, man. When I was there last time, I interviewed a number of people from the rock, the hip, the rap, and they are, you guys, girls are bold. Fuck you, man. I'm not dealing in a country where you're going to repress conscience and thought and speech. Fuck you. They're going into the courtrooms and standing vigil. You know, I mean, your generation in Burma, I don't know outside, only you know that, but the ones inside, Ming Online took on the wrong generation, I can tell you that. These girls and boys are super unthinkable rad. I grew up as a young activist in the University of Virginia. Not 1/1000th to the courage of your people. It is a new dimension. I recommend that the CDB, Civil Disobedience Movement in Burma, the anonymous faces of the dead, the tortured, the assassinated, and the alive hiding, win the Nobel Peace Prize. And a new definition of the Peace Prize. Where do you see this kind of thing? And I think Ming Online knows I better be thinking of how to get to China. I can be sure he's thinking of an exit strategy. And I think if it was really smart, this is not safe in Naypyidaw anymore. And it's not. He's crossed the line. There's no normal anymore. The country will collapse, and he'll collapse with it.